3, 2, 1. There we go. I figured it out that time. I was doing the other live video and I didn't know there was a little end finish button at the bottom. So I was cruising along. I did it. I shut it off and turned it back on. And here I'm having a cigarette and spitting and snorting out the window. That was pretty nasty. Anyway, I deleted that one. So I'm live now, people. How we doing today? You know, oftentimes I think of why I do things and the reasons why I put myself up to the challenge. And my new challenge in these 90 videos in 90 days. And, you know, it's all about helping create change and with youth and, you know, not making the same mistakes I made. You know, and I can say, you know, if it only changes one life or helps one family, you know, it was all worth it. But really, truly, I want to help a lot more than just that one person. I put myself up to this challenge and making these short videos, 10-15 minutes long, and sharing my experience, my strengths, my hopes, and people won't make the same mistakes I made. My first book there I wrote is a memoir. It's called Life in the Game of Addictions. You can find that one on Lulu. In my notes, I share, in my videos, I share a lot of the notes that I wrote in my other book, Road to Recovery, Addictions 101. Over the years, I see Jared Bond join. What's up? No? Jennifer, hi. Okay, new. Put a mask to give yourself a fun look. Yeah, okay, I'll get right on that. Okay, so anyway, I really hope that people will come on and, you know, check out my site and join up or you know, click on to join my 90 videos in 90 days to really help others have an understanding. And even yourself, you just never know. Sometimes, somewhere, you might just say something to someone that could really, truly make a difference in their life and turn their life around. You know, darn allergies or, whoa. Anyway, you know, if only we could all do our part and come into a better understanding. You know, I said before, nothing worse than an opinionated person that's just really uneducated. You know, you may, you know, sometime or another, I'm sure you must know somebody that has an addiction or substance abuse. My 90 videos in 90 days cost $20, you know? That's like 22 cents a day. You know, share it with your youth, with your children, with your friends, your family, or recommend someone that's struggling. And, you know, it's 70% of all people that do have substance abuse or addiction problems that, you know, come clean or learn how to live or use sociably without any treatment programs or AA or sponsorships. They do it on their own. I'm really hoping to you know, to grab a hold of those people or grab a hold of anyone that's at the early stages of thinking you might have a problem with alcohol or drugs, or, you know, and turn your life around and learn how to live a full life and a fun life. And so anyway, my book there, the second book, Road to Recovery, I wrote, you know, 100 notes in there. People that got a hold of me over the last 10 years and asking me questions about what substance abuse is, or why is my family or my daughter or my son or, you know, my husband is, you know, why is he off getting drunk, or why doesn't he care about us? Doesn't he love us? You know, and the majority of the questions that people have, I've answered over the last 10 years. I wrote in my book, and I'm using those notes to help share in each one of my videos all those questions and giving answers to people that, you know, even the early stages that, you know, they may turn themselves around and they don't have to go to that extent of hitting rock bottom, you know. But it's truly the beautiful life to live if you have a better understanding of what it is all about, you know. And I believe for the most part, many who use or abuse, you know, or not use, but abuse drugs or alcohol, that there's a relationship there, that there's some underlying issue or problem in their life that they're covering up or dealing or self-medicating. You know, like so much of this world is causing stress, and, you know, and too much stress can get you into a depression, and it's hard to snap out of it. And what happens a lot of times is we try a drug or we use a little booze to bring us about balance and, you know, trying to feel better. And what happens is you get into a cycle of that. You get a little stressed, you're starting to get depressed, and so you have a drink and you kind of snap out of it for a bit, you're balanced, and before you know it, you're right back down again and going through the same issues. And I know for many it's a chemical imbalance, like David Kipper wrote in his book, Addiction Solutions, that all addictions are based on brain chemistry, determined by genetics, and triggered by some type of stress in someone's life. I truly believe that that's, a crisis. A lot of times it's some crisis in your life. If a loved one passes away, or, you lose your job, or whatever it might be. You go through a separation and divorce like I did. And, you tend to fall back on what you've used in the past. And with me it was alcohol, and then it turned into drugs. And it was all about trying to seek out rewards of happiness and avoidance of sadness. And yeah, sure, I avoided sadness for many years and was on a good drunk, but I become so dependent on the booze, I became addicted to it. And I wake up shaking in the morning and couldn't do anything unless I had a few drinks to get me up balanced. And it really was a sad life to live, and I brought on a lot of harm to my family, and like I said, I lost a lot, but I'm trying to make amends today and doing right, and no longer part of the problems, and I'm being part of the solutions and helping others bring about change. Listen, if you have a loved one or you yourself are struggling with substance abuse or addiction, come join my Social 22 Road to Recovery and come on board. And it's only like 22 cents a day for the 90 videos. It's $20, everybody can spare $20 darn dollars. How much money I blew on drugs and booze, and it really helps you or someone else that you love come to a better understanding. Anyway, the sun's coming out. I gotta go try and make some money today. Have a great day, guys. I love you all.